Good morning. Wednesday. Yep. Happy Wednesday. Looks a little rainy. That's what we get. Some some sun, some rain. Um, Still pretty nice out though. I think pretty warm. We're not running the heaters in the yoga room, so it's chillier in here, but it feels pretty good. It was actually really warm for yesterday's class, so we decided maybe we don't need the heaters, but we might need them again. You never know. It's probably too soon to assume we're totally into the spring weather, but I don't know. Good morning, Deb and Susan and Dora and Gwen. I hope everyone is doing well. So, as we are getting into the spring and people are getting vaccinated and maybe feeling like they can be out a little bit more, um, let's just not, don't forget that you still need to be careful with masks and all that stuff. And if you haven't got a vaccine yet, it's okay. Don't feel bad like you're missing out on anything. Just get your name on some lists and see. They've changed some of the rules about that now. So pretty much, I think pretty much everywhere, if you are over 50 and have pretty much any kind of health situation, you can get a vaccine. This can be anything from being overweight to a former smoker, um, anything that puts you in a slightly elevated risk category. So you can sign up most places. And pharmacies, I think you can go even younger. Pharmacies, I think, have expanded their base to people even younger than 50. So if you haven't looked recently at the recommendations, I suggest going to the state public health website and look it up because you may be eligible, or members of your family may be more eligible than you think. Um, that being said, you still need to be able to find it somewhere. So get on the list. There are some aggregate lists, and you may find links to some of those where things called like Vaccine Finder and services like that help you kind of weed through um, and get to a list of different places that you might try applying. Some of the places, the pharmacies and um, even grocery stores, that have pharmacies in them, it's a little hit or miss, right? Because they won't make appointments unless they have the vaccine to give. So sometimes going to these like larger aggregates are more helpful. Um, I will, there's a couple, and I will get a couple names for you guys, maybe send out an email. Um, Rather than have to go to every single one, it might be helpful to have one place to go to look. But again, as time goes by, right? We were talking yesterday about this idea of with every step forward, you have that much less ahead of you, right? And more, you're making more progress. So you're shortening the distance to where you want to go. So for every person that gets vaccinated, and I think that's maybe right now, that's kind of the thought process is that even if you're going to get, because again, there's no real uh, there's no real way to prove this stuff, right? You don't need a doctor's note to say that you have high blood pressure or uh, a lung condition or a former smoker, right? And we're allowing people to self-identify with this. And the idea being, that they're trusting that people are going to be honest about it. And even if they aren't honest about it, they'll be vaccinated. So um, even if you can't get an appointment right now, all those other people who are getting vaccinated are going to make it easier, not only safer for you, but easier for you to get a vaccine in the future because they'll be done. So it's it it kind of reminds me of when my kids were young. They used to have these video games that would have midnight releases, and um, they were very jazzed about this. And of course, they were kind of teenagers, and they wanted to go to the midnight release. And my husband was like, forget that, I got to get up in the morning. So that was my job, right? So we would go out, and at midnight we'd go to the GameStop and look at the line, just this line stretching down the block. And I'm like, well, this is ridiculous, I'm not standing in this line, let's go get donuts. So we would drive over to the Dunkin' Donuts place, get ourselves some donuts, get everybody a snack so that they would have a snack when they went home and we're going to play their game. And that would take, 15 minutes or so. And by the time we got back, maybe a half an hour, the line was gone. There were maybe 3 or 4 people out front. And then, we didn't have to wait hardly at all. So instead of thinking of it as something you can't do, think of it as something you can do. Go get some donuts while you're waiting for your place in line. And know that none of this is wasted, right? I mean, even if there are a lot of other people who are getting the vaccine, maybe there are going to be people who are going to get it who aren't as deserving, right? So, and I have had that feeling too when I see people announcing on, social media and stuff about, oh, I got a vaccine, oh, I got a vaccine. And you think, well, you're not old, you're young, and, you don't seem like, you seem perfectly healthy. What did you get a vaccine? But the truth of it is, you don't really know. Like, no one knows. You don't know why someone might have gotten it. You don't know if they have underlying health issues. Maybe they were just in the right place at the right time. We've had that situation where we were talking about where people, they have extra vaccine because it was thawed and they have to use it within like an hour, and they just have to give it to whoever's there. Otherwise, they throw it in the trash. So it's not our job to decide who's worthy and who's not, right? We're all worthy. We all need to get this done eventually, for everybody's sake. So if you get it now, you get it later, doesn't really matter. There's nothing magical about it. It's not going to change your life until everybody has it, right? then things will change when there's a larger proportion of people vaccinated. So be interested in it, keep proactive, but don't panic. No panicking, right? So that's maybe a good thing. Let's just talk briefly about that idea of that you can't judge things from how it looks on the outside, right? You might think you understand what's going on with somebody, or you know them. And certainly in this age of social media, people are much more open with their personal business. But again, they're only sharing a certain chunk of that. So you get the idea maybe that you know them, or that you are in a position to judge what they are doing. But in truth, none of us are ever in any position to do that. The only judgment that we are called to do is our own behavior, policing our own behavior. That's our goal. How is what we're doing affecting others and affecting us? Other people need to take care of themselves, and know that, right? There's some very good reasons for this, right? We've talked about this before. The idea that Um, People don't take kindly to correction, right, from others. They don't. Um, Pointing out someone's flaws, pointing out their errors. Um, the only I'm trying to think the only instance where you might you might get away with this is like family, right? Uh, but even that's a little tricky. Maybe, your children, right? I mean, when your children are small, right, we certainly are trying to teach them right from wrong and all of that. But even at some point, that has to be let go when they get to be adults. Uh, you can't expect to tell them off and have them take that positively. But does that mean that we need to witness bad behavior? No, we don't. And if we see people treating others poorly or making comments or saying things that are cruel or hurtful, uh, calling them out on it, right? Telling them that it's not okay. Um, that's certainly our role if we feel comfortable to do that. Um, Not being a part of something that is wrong, right? That is, again, it's your behavior, right? So it's not even so much. So let's say someone is saying something cruel to someone or making, a comment that is offensive. Um, it's not so much their action as that you are policing as your position in this, right? So if you sit by and allow these things to happen without, you know, pointing out the problem, it's your inaction, right, that is the problem. You have an opportunity to, tell someone that, it's not okay. Um, but if you choose not to take that, then that's on you, right? That is your responsibility for your own self that is maybe a bit diminished. And of course, you always want to do this very safely. And if you feel like the person doing this is so so over the edge that they may harm you, or it could be a difficulty for you in that way, then you want to tread carefully. But I found that for the most part, when you have situations like this, people are kind of taken aback and maybe even shocked that someone would call them on their bad behavior. Because I think a lot of times the people who perpetrate this type of behavior are surrounded by people who don't want to deal with them, who just let them run their mouth because it's easier than getting involved. So then when someone does, they're shocked. They're amazed that, oh my gosh, maybe I didn't even realize I was being so offensive. Or at least that's what they say, right? But it doesn't really matter, right? Um, our job is not maybe to change people like that, but to try to shut them down, right? Change the narrative, change the tone of the conversation so that people don't feel like it's okay to act like that to other people, at least not in public, right? We can't change people in private. We can't change their mind so much as their behavior, right? We can encourage good behavior. Um, so, looking to ourselves first, always, um, and um, taking responsibility for our space, right? Um, we can't change everything, right? But we can change what's around us. We can change what we are willing to tolerate. Um, and then the ripples move outward. Um, and then maybe other people feel a little strength to speak up when things aren't going um, in a way that is just or kind. it's it's a little scary sometimes, right? But I've noticed in my own life that I'm given these opportunities. Um, it's almost like comical at times. Like I've been in situations where it's like the universe is saying, "What are you going to do now?" Right? you you believe this stuff and you read this stuff, and I speak to you about this stuff, but then I'm challenged. Like, do you really believe this? Or what are you going to do? And when you come across this type of really blatant behavior, um, you are, I mean, I am sometimes shocked and almost to the point of laughter. Like, how can this person be saying something so awful and so offensive out loud in front of other human beings? What are they thinking? Do they really think that no one's going to say anything? And the fact of the matter is, usually I am the only person saying something. So it's not like they haven't done this before all the time. Um, so, you know, there you go. If you follow your yoga path, your yamas and your niyamas, expect to be challenged. Expect the universe to test you. Do you really believe this stuff? Are you living this stuff? And you won't always pass the test, right? You're going to fail. You're going to be lazy. You're going to be like, oh my God, I can't deal with this today. That's okay. Um, but you will be given more opportunities, right? Um, and just keep trying to make the right choice. Um, we don't have to uh, we don't have to be on our A game every day, right? Some days you just don't want to deal with it, and that's okay. But more days than not, you will, right? And I have noticed in my own life that the more I do this stuff, the more strength I have to do more. It builds, right? Um, and you get some confidence in speaking your truth, um, and knowing that what you are doing is important. It's important, right? To try to keep your little patch of the world clean, right? Just like you don't want garbage piling up. If you see trash, people don't have any trouble with that, right? If you see trash blowing around out in front of your house or somewhere, you'll pick it up. Some trash is in your yard that blew in there. You didn't put it there. It's not your responsibility. But are you going to leave it there? No. You're going to pick it up and you're going to throw it away because that's what we do. We take responsibility for our space, for our little corner of the world. And we can do this in lots of different ways. They don't have to be earth shaking. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to start a movement. You don't have to get on TV. You don't, I mean, if you want to, you can, but you can start in the very smallest of ways. And it can make such a big difference. Okay, so let's move some asana for the day. So sitting nice and tall, relaxing the shoulders, breathe. And then drop the head down. Moving around, big circle. One way and the other. Back to center, lean forward, move around. One way and the other. Back up to your seat, take the arms wide. Deep breath, exhale, hands together. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Interlace the fingers. Lift. Arms high. And then bring the arms down by your side. Inhale, lift. And lower. Lift. Lower. Once more, lifting up. And lower down. Lift the shoulders, roll back. And forward. Let's bring the arms up to goalpost position. Take a deep breath. Turn to the right. Back to center. Take a breath. Turning left. And back to center. Bring the hands behind. We're going to interlace the fingers. Set the hands down behind you if possible. Gazing up. And then fold forward. And then we're back up. Let's bring soles of the feet together. Sitting up tall. Lean forward. Come on up, take a breath, and then we're going to fold forward again. Back up, both legs out in front. Let's point and flex the feet. And then rotating them around in one direction and reversing. Bring the arms up overhead, deep breath, fold forward. Bend the right knee, we'll hug it in. Sitting up tall, lower the knee out to the side. Take a deep breath and fold over that left leg. Moving back up. Sitting tall for a couple of breaths. And then lowering the knee. Deep breath in and fold. Back up, both legs out in front. Take a deep breath and fold. Moving back up, we're gonna bend this left knee so it's pointing out in front. Right leg comes over top. And do your best with this, trying to get that knee as close to being over top of the other knee as possible. Take a deep breath and fold forward. So I had a teacher that used to say that some of these positions are hard to get into because of our tightness in the body, But some of it is because of what you called excess flesh, right? We all have a certain amount of excess flesh, and it can get in the way, right, of doing some of these postures. So don't worry about it, right? I mean, if you have some extra flesh, I mean, it at the most basic, females have a lot of upper body flesh that men don't necessarily have, and they can get in the way a little bit. So you have to work your way around it. Your pose will adapt to suit that. It's just part of all the other adaptations that we do with our practice. Come on back up and switch it around. Take that breath and fold. Back up. Both legs out in front. Take a deep breath. Fold. And then moving back up, we're going to bring the left hand to the outside of the right knee, right arm behind. Sit up tall, deep breath, and then turning the shoulders. Back to center, switch sides, and twist. And back to center. Bend the knees. Soles of the feet to the mat. Moving down. So we're laying on the mat. Take a moment or two to be comfortable with this transition. Bending the right knee. We're going to bring that ankle on top of the left knee. Maybe staying here, or bring that leg in closer to the body and breathe. And then set that foot back down. We're going to keep the right ankle on top of the knee, arms goalpost or to a T, and then lowering that left knee. The right foot is going along for a little twist. Maybe set your gaze to the right. Try to keep the shoulders flat on the mat. And bringing everything back. Let's switch it around. So now left ankle is on the right knee and doing whatever we did on the other side. Set the foot down if it's not there already. And we're going to keep that left ankle on the knee, lowering to the side. For a twist. Coming back up. Set both feet back down to the mat. Let's bump the knees together. Walk the feet to the outer edges of the mat. And bring the hands on the belly. And breathe. This is a great position to help kind of flatten out the lower back. And then walk the feet back in, getting into position for bridge. Heels back close to the body, hands by your side. Pressing down to lift up. Maybe interlace the fingers if you want. And then releasing, lower back down, soles of the feet together, knees apart. You could bring arms up over your head if you feel good about that. Bring your knees back to center. We're going to bring them into the chest. You rock side to side a little bit. Bring your hands onto your kneecaps. And we're going to rotate. A few times in one direction and then coming back into the opposite movement. And then back to center. Happy baby here. Reaching for the feet, the ankles, whatever you have got here. And then you can stay still or you could move a little. Sometimes moving feels really good, but it can be very challenging to just hold this in a stationary way. And then release, extend the legs. And then we're ready, we're lowering down. And resting comfortably on your mat. Keep breathing. Feel the body sinking down into the mat, just relaxing and breathing. So, one of the exercises that we did in my yoga teacher training, we did lots of different things, right? And some of them were designed to just sort of give you, solid information for teaching a class, but some of it was also uh, meant to challenge some of your beliefs that you might have about yourself or about the poses. And one of them was to pick a pose that you had difficulty with, right? And then we had to hold it for 5 minutes. Um, and obviously, if you couldn't hold it for 5 minutes, you could take a break and then get back into it. But the idea was, right, to challenge your idea of poses you don't like. So be careful what pose you say, because we didn't know what was going to happen when they asked you just to name a pose that you had difficulty with. Um, or not even so much difficulty, but which one do you dislike, right? Which one have you decided you dislike? And mine was bridge. I decided that I didn't like bridge. So holding bridge for 5 minutes teaches you a lot about the pose. You learn, which muscles are you being used at different times in the pose, how to move that around. Um, there are things that we learn when we hold the poses longer that we might really just overlook if we are moving quickly through the pose. So um, there's definitely some value in holding the pose. Moving a little bit and then making your way up to a seat. We'll bring hands together, take a breath in and out. Thank you for taking time this morning for some yoga and for sharing it with me. I hope you have a beautiful Wednesday. Namaste. Okay, 5 minutes of meditation. So I think 5 minutes is one of my favorite amounts of time, right? 5 minutes is enough to kind of do something, to sort of get going with something, but not enough. It doesn't seem overwhelming, right? 5 minutes of meditation, who can't do that? Um, holding a pose for 5 minutes. Well, I mean, that could be tricky, but it can be done. 5 minutes of cleaning up. You'd be surprised what 5 minutes can do. We timed, my children were always complaining about emptying the dishwasher until we timed exactly how long it really took to empty the dishwasher. It's actually less than 5 minutes. So 5 minutes is a powerful amount of time. You can make some real inroads into things that you maybe are putting off because it feels like too much, too big. Just try it for 5 minutes and see how it goes. Like now, some meditation. Getting into that uh, meditative space, relaxed body, relaxed mind. Breathe, sitting nice and upright. Okay, we're done. Some yoga and some meditation for your rainy Wednesday. I hope you have a very good day. Um, See today, where what you can do to make your corner of the world a better place to be. Okay, see you tomorrow.